Okay, we're officially live. Welcome to my earnings stream. Regular session closing bell is about to ring any second. Okay, the regular session is now officially closed. We have earnings with FedEx, and then we also have earnings for Lennar. So these are the two that we got today. Definitely interested in seeing what FedEx's results are going to be. EPS, revenue, guidance, any commentary from the higher ups, and we'll get right into it. So let me go over to earnings whispers just for a second. So yeah, there's earnings whispers saying 4 p.m. Eastern for FedEx. So it should be any moment now. The forecast EPS is 3.65 and the forecast revenue is 21.76 billion. They're trading right around their anchored VWAP, so kind of trading around an area of interest. Let's see, they closed the regular session just below 230. They closed at 226.57 a share. I go to trading view here, and I'll go to 1 minute chart on this. So as soon as we get the reaction, we'll see it nice and close up view here with the 1 minute chart. Tony Powers in the house in Discord. Floki, Nikki's here. Got about 100 people already tuning in. Streaming on X and YouTube and Twitch and Kick. Okay, FedEx is getting a little bit of movement here. 4:01 p.m. Maybe that's a typo on earnings whispers, and they report at 4:05. We'll see. It's moving a little bit right now. Okay, here we go. It's getting a little more. Let's give it a minute for the price to kind of settle in there. I'll go over to my other screen. Oops, pardon me for a second. That's my office phone. I'll put them on silent and get back to them after the stream. All right, FedEx is getting a move here, so data must be out. Again, it closed the regular session at $226.86. Webull says 226.57, so got a little bit of a discrepancy on the closing price, but nonetheless, it's up almost 5%, trading at just above 237 in after hours, so it's up about over $10 a share right now. Getting a little bit of movement on Lennar. I mean, this is the 1 minute chart. It kind of just was trading in a range today from 132 to 134. Lennar's trading a little bit above where it closed at. Let's go back to FedEx. And let me refresh my other screen and see if we got some data. Almost 200 people joining us now. Good to see everybody. All right, FedEx is taking a little breather. It had an initial positive reaction up to 239. Let's look at a few other things here. Again, here's just a little graphic of what the expectations were, but I already went over this at the beginning of the stream. EPS at expected numbers 3.61, expected revenue 21.65 billion. So let me see if I can get the actual data because it should be out. We do have the reaction. Let's see. Same time, kind of an interesting fact. Same time last year for FedEx, they missed by 24%. So let's see what happens today. And let me go to their investor relations page and see if I can get this. Let's see. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the politician. She bought up $250,000 in Google and FedEx and a few others. She famously bought before tariffs were paused and stocks soared. That's some info from Unusual Whales. All right, FedEx still up here, sitting up here at the top, trading just below 238 a share. There definitely are buyers in the pictures, if you will. And here's the EPS and revenue data. So let me pull this over just for a second. Okay, so they did miss They missed on EPS. However, they did beat revenue by a little bit. So nice revenue beat. No investors had their eye on the revenue line item, and they did beat revenue, so that's good. Missed EPS just by a little bit. Let's take a look at a few other things. Also, everyone's saying there's basically no chance of a recession now. Fed's cut rates yesterday, and he basically said there's going to be 2 others. So we'll see if that changes over the next month or two. But let's look at some more stuff here. I'm going to go to I don't think Lennar reported yet, so we're still kind of waiting on them. Look at FedEx, just broke over 240. It's up 6%. It's a $226 stock when it closed the regular session today. Now it's above 240. It looks good. You kind of figure it might have maybe reversed by now if this wasn't the real move. Usually those reversals happen pretty quickly. So far it's holding up. Let's see if it starts to take a breather at all. Look at level 2. This is the 5-minute chart on Webull here, but let's see. Okay, got some orders around 241. Let's see if that gets eaten up. So far, it's looking like a congrats to the FedEx bulls. Let me see if I can get some commentary from the CEO or anything like that. Give me 1 second. Oh, I was on Lennar. Let me go back to FedEx. What's going on, everyone? Almost 400 people tuning in now. Got a small group in the Discord tuning in, but all right, let's see. Let me find out when FedEx's earnings web call is. Let's do that. Also, let me look at a few other things just real quick. Okay, I'm going to go to FedEx's investor relations page. And while I'm waiting for that to pull up, let's go on the bigger time frame on FedEx and see if we can spot some levels. Okay, you can see post-market here trading just above 238. So I'd say about 245 would be my resistance number 1. You're saying I didn't show the right post. The post you showed was from 20th of March. Okay, well, let me go back to there. 1 second. Are you talking about the graphic for the EPS and revenue? Let me double check. And if that's the case, I apologize. Okay, here we go. My bad. You're right. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Ichos Pichos on YouTube. Appreciate the correction there. I obviously want to give out the most accurate data. So here we go right here, September 18th. All right. So expected. So they did double beat. Okay, I apologize. So EPS 3.61 was the expected numbers. They just reported 3.83. So 6% beat on that. Revenue expected numbers were 21.65 billion was the forecast, and they just reported 22.2 billion. So they beat by 3% on revenue. Bull Stag on YouTube says you're missing on Scholastic. All right, we'll check that out in a minute. Going over FedEx first. Oh, Scholastic is tanking. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Lennar's reported yet. So let me go over here actually, and just want to look at one thing first. Okay, here's Scholastic here. SCHL. All right. Yeah, let's look at SCHL. Bull Stag on YouTube saying it's tanking. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, just down about 11%, down $3 a share. Kind of spotty price action though. Let's see what Webull looks like. CHL. Yeah, kind of the same thing. Go 1 minute chart. It was kind of trading on low volume today. I mean, it was like 3x the normal volume, but the normal volume over the past 3 months, 285,000. Traded a little above 600,000 in volume today. So yeah, it was more volume than usual, but typically it trades on low volume anyway. But yeah, it is down. I'll get some data on them in a second. But let's go back to FedEx. So double beat on FedEx. Pardon my erroneous information earlier. I was looking at some old info, but year-over-year numbers, EPS and revenue are green. Quarter-over-quarter, EPS was down 37%. Not good, but investors don't seem to mind that. According to price action, it's being bought up right now. So revenue was unchanged quarter-over-quarter. From a bird's eye view, it looks like good earnings, double beat. Let's see if I can get some commentary from the CEO and the CFO and see what they got to say. I'll keep Scholastic on the right here, see if this ends up forming a bottom or not. Again, kind of trading on low volume just overall. And let's see. And FedEx did restore the earnings guidance, so that's a positive thing. And there was $210,000 call buyer right before the close. Look at that. And that was the 245 call. Doesn't look like that's nope, it's not in the money yet, but let me look at a few other things. Oh yeah, let me go to their investor relation. I want to see when their earnings web call is. Okay, so double beat by FedEx. Double beat by FedEx. Let's scroll down here. Okay, yeah, it's right here on the homepage. So let me post this link for everybody. There we go. I'll put that on the bottom of my screen. There you go. So that's the link to the FedEx earnings web call with the upper management, and it's at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. So which means it's going to be at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And as soon as you get to that link, you can just hit the webcast hyperlink right here. It'll take you right to it. So good stuff there. And then also, if you want to take a deeper dive into their earnings data, just go to that same link I just provided, and you can get dig a little deeper in their earnings data. But yeah, 5:30 p.m. Eastern is their earnings web call. And once you get to that link, scroll down to latest financial results, and you can get the PDF documents with the actual earnings data if you want to look more into it. So, so far, nice and positive reaction for FedEx. It's looking like a grats to the FedEx bulls. And again, area of interest on the bigger time frames, I'm going to put that right around 245. That's going to be resistance number one, 245. Okay. So if the momentum can keep up, I'd be looking at that level, right around 245. Could be a good place to take profit, perhaps. Trading just above 240 right now. And probably just go $5 increments on the resistance. So 245 R1 and 250 R2. That's probably what I'd be looking at. Easy $5 levels. I would, maybe call out some support on the bigger time frames, but it's looking like it probably is not needed. But scrolling out, and I'd say about 9 months worth of price action, you can clearly see the volume profile. I'd probably put support number one around 230, probably around there. So anyways, we got the reaction for FedEx. Nice and positive reaction. It did print 1.5 red minute candle, the previous candle, but now it's been counteracted by another green one. So good stuff there. And what's going on? Crimin A7 on Discord. Good to see you. Hope you're liking the Discord group over there in the free section. Doesn't cost any money, and there's a lot of education over there, and I know they do a lot of live streams in the free section as well, so you get the benefit of that, and that's, of course, doesn't cost anything. So yeah, if you're interested in joining the Discord, check the links in the description. You can join for free. Just see how you like it. Doesn't cost you anything. What can you lose? Let me see if there's anything on Lennar real quick. LEN. So earnings whispers were saying that they don't report until like closer to 6 o'clock. I'm not sure why they're reporting, that at that time. They are located in the U.S. Earnings Whisper says 5:45 p.m. Eastern for some reason. So usually these earnings come in around 4 or 4:15, 4:05, sometimes 4:30. But yeah, the info I'm getting is Lennar's reporting at 5:45. So we might not get their data But the forecast EPS is 2.12 and the forecast revenue is 9 billion. And they're trading above their anchored VWAP. Their anchored VWAP is just above 120, so that would be kind of an area of interest for me. But let's go back to FedEx. I'm gonna go back intraday on Trading View. I'll keep Scholastic over here on the right in case it tries to form a bottom. 1 minute chart on FedEx. It does look like it's taking a little bit of a breather. I'll probably go ahead and draw a fib on this thing here. Actually, let me draw it the other way, top to bottom. There we go. I'll put it right where it closed the regular session, around 226.50. But you can see it's kind of fighting with the 25% retrace right now. That's about 238 a share. But you can see these bottom, these two candles right here kind of bottomed out together. Okay, getting a red candle, coming to test that level right now. So support level number 1, probably going to put that at probably 236, this fib level right here. Kind of lines up with my 21 EMA as well. So 236 support level number 1. Support level number 2 as far as after hours price action, put that around 232 a share. So let's see if those levels can hold for the remainder of after hours. But yeah, if 236 holds, probably 237 is actually what I'd call this support. That's where these candles keep bouncing off of right now. 230, a little above 237. But if that can hold, I would look for a run to maybe test after hours high, which is going to be, according to Webull, it's 241.99. So just 1 penny off from 242. So let's see what ends up happening. Got the link on the bottom of my screen for the earnings web call. That does start in about 15 minutes. Okay. Let me check some other things before I move on. And also, let's look at some financials real quick. As far as the shape of the the health of FedEx going into this earnings, trailing 12-month PE ratio, 13.47. That's good. They pay dividend, according to Webull, 2.56% dividend. That's nice. A little cherry on top there. Free float, 218 million. Nice and positive EPS at 16.82. That's the trailing 12 month. And let's just take a look at the income statement. So yes, they have been a profitable company. Positive net income for the past 5 years. So that's good to see. And on the quarterly basis, they've slowly been trending up with the positive net income. So that's good. Balance sheet, debt to asset, 67%. That's pretty good. Cash and equivalents. As of May 31st, FedEx had 5.5 billion in cash and equivalents. That's pretty solid. And property, plant, and equipment, which would be kind of like, especially the property would be more real estate related, 104 billion. That's probably like obviously their warehouses and stuff like that. So pretty strong company. There's a reason they're trading up here above $200, and they're getting a nice positive reaction, trading just below 240 after closing the regular session at 226.50. So nice positive reaction. It's looking like obviously a grats to the FedEx bulls. I mean, even if you did like a earnings lotto trade on this and you were even somewhat close to the money, I mean, you could have even been out of the money a little bit. Those should be in the money by tomorrow morning, and the delta on those contracts should pay you very well. So congrats to the FedEx bulls. It doesn't look like it's coming down now. Maybe there could be a secondary move when they do their earnings web call in about 10 minutes. It's at 4:30. But, I'm not sure what they would say that would reverse this. I mean, the data seems nice and positive. So 10 more minutes before their earnings web call. Still nothing on Lennar. I am thinking that they probably are reporting closer to 6 o'clock. So I'll just go back to Scholastic, which was recommended by someone on YouTube there. They had a negative reaction. Kind of spotty price action, like I was saying. You see the little gaps and printing some ugly doji looking candles, and it's kind of trading on low volume. That's what you get. But we'll see if it bottoms out at 24 bucks a share, because it came down to 23.86, and then there were some buyers that kind of scooped it up a little bit, bought the dip a little bit. So maybe $24 for Scholastic, probably be my support level number one, 24 bucks. And let's see if there's any like a support level number two down there. And yeah, $24 lines up with the bottom of, from when it was trading sideways. This was about 2 months worth of price action. They do have a gap to the downside, brings it down to like 22 and some change. So that'd probably be my support level number two. Support level number one, 24 could be solid. That could be good demand. If for some reason that fails, I'd be looking at the bottom of this gap, a little above 22 bucks. That's my S1, S2 on Scholastic. Obviously, resistance levels on the bigger time frames aren't really in play right now because it's working on a negative reaction. So intraday candles, as far as picking out some resistance on this thing, draw a fib on it. I'm just going to go from where it closed at, and I'll draw it down to where it came down to 23.86. And actually, well, let me put the magnet on. There we go. I'll draw it from here to there. So it's kind of trading right around the 25% retrace. So this is going to be an important level. Probably going to call that 25 bucks a share. So, for me to have confidence that it is going to retrace back up and have a chance at reclaiming some of these levels, got to get above 25. That's kind of make or break, because if it doesn't get above 25, this could just be a dead cat bounce. So that's probably the resistance number one I'd be looking at. Resistance number two, the golden fib at 26. So easy resistance levels. As far as post-market price action goes, we still got another 3.5 hours of post-market data that's going to come in as far as price action. But resistance levels 25 and 26. Keep it simple. Let's see here. Shivam Patel. Yeah, Lennar. Yeah, let's take a look. Again, I don't think they are reporting until 5:45. That's what Earnings Whispers is telling me. And I don't think the data is out yet, but we can kind of just take a little deep dive into it and pick out some levels on the bigger time frames. As far as if it gets a positive reaction, where's my resistance going to be at? Or if it gets a negative reaction, where should I be looking at a level of value, like maybe a dip buy level, something like that, right? But Lennar, of course, they are a U.S. home builder. Everyone's probably familiar with Lennar. They got developments in Texas. They have developments in Florida. I'm over here in Florida, and they got developments kind of all over the country. But let's just take a look real quick. So they closed the regular session at 132.87. Kind of flat on the day. They had some big ups and downs during the day. I mean, not really big ups and downs. The 1 minute chart looks that way, but basically was trading in a $2 range today. Okay. So kind of channel traded today. But going into the earnings, Lennar had a trailing 12-month PE of 10.98. That seems pretty good. We could always cross-check the PE ratio to their peers and competitors and kind of get where they fall at in the range to see if they're kind of undervalued or overvalued. But PE is at 10.98. So I'll look a little more into that later. But EPS 12.10. That's a pretty solid EPS for a $130 stock. Look at FedEx. Just made a new after hours high. This thing wasn't done yet, so it's making another leg up. Again, the bigger time frame level we were looking at, 245. It's slowly approaching that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sellers around 245, just kind of waiting, and then they might be taking profit there. That was just a level of interest when we were looking at the price action from the past 2 months on the bigger time frames. Right around 245 is where we saw some rejection. But back to Lennar, they do pay a 1.5% dividend, so I'll get a little extra on top there. Free float 225 million. Let's look at the financials. I'll go to income statement first. So they are a positive net income profitable company. The past couple quarters, though, they've kind of been on the low end of their net income range, bringing in about $500 million the past 2 quarters. but they brought in up to 1.2 billion. That's Q3 of 2024. Annual basis looks good. The quarterly basis, their past three earnings, the year-over-year numbers could be better, but nonetheless, they still are a profitable company. Annual basis looks better than the quarterly. Debt to asset only 32%. So Lennar doesn't have a lot of debt compared to how much assets they have. 32%. That's a low debt to assets. So that's good. Let's see how much money they got. There's, as of May 31st, they were sitting on 1.4 billion in cash and equivalents. So decent cash position. And again, I don't think their earnings data is out, but I'm going to go trading view. And let me look at Lennar. Looks like I got to fix my fib on FedEx because it just made a new high. Move that up a little bit. There we go. All right, so back to Lennar as far as bigger time frames. If it does get a positive reaction, this is the daily chart. Look at kind of almost like a cup and handle on this daily chart. Of course, going into an earnings catalyst, technical analysis doesn't really hold a lot of weight. But after the data is out and it reacts to the data, and then we can kind of bring technical analysis back into the picture. Okay, but right now, if it does get a positive reaction for the earnings, I'd be looking right around 144. Probably what I'll call it 145, because sometimes the price, will just breach it a little bit and get rejected. But 144 to 145, kind of like a $1 range for the resistance. Wow, look at FedEx, just made a new after hours high. The FedEx bulls are loving this. Volstagg says, thanks for the earnings watch as always. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you coming in and hang out too. It's always good to see you. Kyle says also, what do the Kyle on X? What do the execs at Prop pay you per post? I currently don't trade Prop. Maybe, I don't know. I guess there's been maybe some posts from some other Discord analysts that you've seen. I don't actually know anything about that. Wish I could answer that for you. But Tua Taj, yeah, you were hanging out with us yesterday too. You come to a lot of the streams. Welcome back. Good to see you. So I work with them, and they are usually the best home builders. Lots of cutbacks. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I've noticed that, also because, we got a ton of home builders in Florida, and Lennar does seem to be kind of on the upper echelon compared to the other home builders that kind of cut a lot of corners and stuff like that. But yeah, I would definitely think Lennar is one of the better home builders for sure. And I appreciate the insight there, Tua on YouTube. That's good to know that you're actually you work with them, and definitely your opinion is they're the best home builders. I definitely take your word for it since you work for them. So good stuff. But if Lennar does get a positive reaction, I'd be looking 144, 145. There very well could be some sellers up there waiting. Okay, that's where it got rejected from earlier this month. If it can break through 144, 145. There's a lot of upside with this stock. I mean, this thing was trading at $190 1 year ago today. All right. So definitely think if that 144, 145 level gets mitigated, it should be a pretty nice run up, and probably just go $10 price targets, 150, 160, 170, because just as fast as it kind of sold off back here from November of last year. And this is like 2 weeks of price action, and it fell from 180 all the way down to like 140. That's a pretty steep drop in a short period of time. But just as quick as it kind of sold off, if that 144, 145 level gets dealt with, I mean, it very well could run up to these levels in just the same amount of time it sold off. Kind of like a magnet. We'll see. But definitely resistance number one, 144, 145, like a $1 range is where I put R1. And then R2, R3, I'd just do $10 levels after that. But if for some reason it gets a negative reaction, okay, it did close the regular session at 132.87, trading at 133 right now in after hours. Tua says, well, what is a good after hours options brokerage for earnings? Unfortunately, you're not able to trade options in the extended hours. I don't think any broker will allow you to do that. So you'd have to get the, open the option before the regular session ends, and then you wouldn't really be able to manage it until the opening bell tomorrow. So in extended hours, I mean, you can still trade, but you'd have to just do the shares on it. All right, so just want to clarify that. But support level number 1, like I said, it closed the regular session just below 133, and it was kind of trading sideways before it kind of took this leg up here. And I kind of want to look at the volume profile real quick. Let's look at Lennar on the volume profile. There we go. Okay. So support, yeah, probably the bottom where it was trading sideways. So maybe S1 like 130, and then probably like around the mid 120s for S2. You can zoom out a little bit more. You can see if 130 fails, and this is price action dating back to February of this year. So it's like 7 months of price action. You just kind of see this little gap in the volume profile. So I don't think there's going to be much holding this thing up if it fails 130. So it may fall down to the low 120s after that, because that's where your next volume shelf comes in. So support level number 1, if it does have a negative reaction, 130. Support level number 2, you could probably just do $5 increments. So 130, 125, and then 120. I think there'll probably be some demand there. But we'll see. The data is not out yet on Lennar, so we don't really know what the reaction is going to be. But, overall, I think they're a solid home builder, just like my friend on YouTube had mentioned earlier. He actually works with Lennar, and they seem to be kind of on the upper echelon of the home builders as far as quality and stuff like that. Look at FedEx. Oh, it just came up to just below that 245 level we were looking at. There was a little bit of selling after it kind of tapped. It didn't tap 245 to the dot, but it's never going to be to the penny. It's just like 244 to 245, $1 range. Came up to that range, was a little bit of selling, but now it's printing some green dojis. We'll see where it goes from here. But this thing just made a new after hours high just below 245. It's up almost $18 a share after closing the regular session at 226.50. Yeah, Tuataz on YouTube. I mean, no doubt, FedEx is looking really, really good, and that's what I was saying earlier. If you decided to do like a earnings lotto play on this, maybe like a cheap out of the money option. I mean, you could have been 15 points out the money. And that's going to pay, if the price of FedEx stays up here, that's going to end up in the money, and you should get paid pretty well on that. Of course, if your call option was closer to where FedEx was trading at when it closed the regular session, then you're going to get the benefit of a much better delta, and that should pay really, really well by tomorrow opening bell. So congrats to the FedEx bulls. That's amazing. Yeah, Jed on X, what's taking LEN so long? The data I'm getting is they don't report till 5:45 p.m. Eastern, and that totally slipped by me. I don't think I'm going to be streaming for that long. From the data I'm getting, they're not reporting for another hour and 15 minutes. So we kind of in limbo on that one, unfortunately. But nonetheless, let me see when their earnings web call is. It's obviously going to be after they do the data, but let me just check and see. I'm going to go to their investor relations, because that 5:45 p.m. time I got was from Earnings Whispers, and sometimes there's typos on the times there. But let's just check this out here. This is Lennar Investor Relations. They were founded in 1954. They've been around for a while. Core principles of quality, value, and integrity. Okay, cool. Okay, web calls tomorrow. Thanks, Jed. I appreciate you confirming that for us. That definitely saved me some time. And yep, absolutely. Right here. Look at this. Here, I'll put this investor relations link right here. Paste. I'll put it in the comments if anyone wants to go there. You can dig a little deeper in their investor side. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jed on X. So it is confirmed. Their earnings web call Friday, September 19th, which is tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So you're not going to be able to join the call until then. So we got to wait overnight. And I'm not seeing the data posted on their website either. It would probably be under, I mean, we could look at the financials. No, it's going to be under, let's click this earnings button here. Okay, Q3 2025 documents. Yeah, they don't have it posted yet, so the data's not out. They'll pop it on their investor relations page, pretty quickly once it's out. So the info I'm getting is right here, 5:45 p.m. Eastern. So got about another hour, but the forecast EPS is 2.12. Forecast revenue is a little above 9 billion. So we're just gonna have to wait and for the data to come out, and then we'll get the reaction. But on the bigger time frames, we were talking about this with Lennar, 144 to 145. Actually, I'd probably just put it at 144. It's probably going to be the resistance it needs to deal with if it gets a positive reaction. And that's going to be, if they get a negative reaction, we were talking about this earlier. I'd probably put it at around 130 and then 125 and then 120 would be the support levels. But yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to get the Lennar data anytime soon. So we got about another hour for that. But yeah, it's been a little over 30 minutes. Let me make sure I didn't miss any comments, because I know last night there were some people commenting and I kind of missed some comments, but we got, usually I get around 2,000 people attending these streams, and I am streaming on YouTube, Twitch, X, and Kick. So I got 4 platforms I'm streaming on, and so sometimes I got to dig through the comments to find out what's what, but I do my best to answer everybody. We go to Discord and make sure I didn't miss nothing over there. Yeah, FedEx, Crimin A7. Yeah, FedEx, nice pop on FedEx. Yeah, almost to 250. But like I say on FedEx, that 245 level, that's we were looking at that on the bigger time frame, and that's kind of was the top of the range. If you go on the daily chart, it's kind of top of the range from the past few months of price action. Really, it's right here, right around 245. So it needs to deal with that level first, and then I could easily see this going back to the 250s, and then possibly 260, 270, because it's got a lot of upside. I mean, look at this. FedEx was trading in the 300s about 1 year ago. Yeah, look at that. 1 year ago, it was trading above $300. So there is room for upside on this, and they did double beat, and their guidance was good. So good stuff there. I want to wrap the stream up by, let me see how SPY closed the regular session. Okay, SPY's up here around 662. Let's go over, if you wanted to put a downside hedge in place on SPY, I think I'll show everyone how to do that using some put debit spreads. I think that'll be good to kind of go over and show everyone, because, I mean, let's be realistic, on the daily chart. Oh, look, it's kind of printing a little doji candle today. Look at that. That's interesting. The price is a little, I think, overextended a little bit. I do think it probably will pull back to one of these EMAs soon. I don't know when. No one knows when, but we can prepare ourselves and get ourselves in a position, to be able to benefit if it does pull back to one of these EMAs. So my 9-day EMA on the daily chart, that lines up just below 657. Then my green 21 EMA, these are the EMAs I like using. They're just really good to spot trends and stuff like that. And especially reversals. I mean, if you caught the EMA crossover after the market corrected 20% from the price action from February to like April of this year, and you caught that EMA crossover, I mean, you made some really good money on the upside. So don't forget to be looking at the bigger time frames, y'all. Don't be stuck on the the 1 minute and the 5 minute and the 15 minute all the time. You got to zoom out every now and then and just kind of get a bird's eye view of what the heck's going on around here. But SPY, there's lots of space between the price of SPY and these EMAs. So, I would think it probably come back to the mean eventually. Matter of fact, I'll show you what it looks like on the Bollinger Bands. Let's see here. All right, I'll take the EMAs off and put the BBs on. There we go. So, you can clearly see it's been trading. This is the right side of my screen, trading at the top of the Bollinger Band. So I'll pull back to the midline. It's definitely wouldn't be out of the ordinary, and that would put SPY around 650. So if you want to kind of put yourself in position to be able to capitalize if and when that happens, let's say you have a bunch of positions you're long on right now, and let's say you plan on profiting like $1,000 profit on those long positions. Well, sometimes it's a good idea to maybe take a little bit of that potential profit and use it to buy some insurance, right? And that's what a hedge would be. So, what I would do is you could put 30 days of time on it if you want. That'll give you 30 days of some downside protection. And what you could do is a put debit spread. So you would sell to open a put and buy to open a put on the same trade ticket. All right, it's all on the same trade ticket. So it's the slang term is a bear put spread. The technical term would be a vertical put debit spread. All right, so that would be if you wanted to play the downside, and you could even put the spread, right below where SPY was trading at today. So it looks like SPY closed the regular session at 662.31 according to Option Strat. Webull says it's 662.26. So anyways, it's I'll probably go off of what Webull and what's Trading View say it closed at. Yeah, 662.26. All right, so that's what I'll use. But anyways, you can put the spread right below it, which means you don't really need a big down move at all to be profitable on this trade. And it's a $1 wide spread, so the spread's worth $100, right? If it was 5 wide spread, it'd be worth $500. But this $1 wide spread is the total value would be $100, and it looks like they were selling for about $39. I'll just leave it at 39, just as easier to explain. So if you paid $39 for it, that means your max profit is $61 per spread. And of course, you get your $39 back. You get your initial investment back plus $61 on top of that. So that right there yields 156% return on your risk on the capital that you use. So that's a solid triple-digit return on a spread, and it only costs you like $40. And I mean, just look at what the options cost on the option chain. If you go out to October 17th and to participate in the 662 put or even the 661 put for a downside hedge, you'd have to fork out like over $800, $800 to $900 you'd have to fork out for that. Well, trading a put debit spread is a way to reduce the buying power needed and be able to participate in these strikes that are at the money. Yes, it does cap your upside. So, full disclosure, there's always a trade-off, right? But if you form the put debit spread, like I just showed you here on Option Strat, so you sell to open the 661, buy to open the 662, instead of needing, $800 or $900, you only need $40. So talk about a dramatic reduction in buying power needed to trade these strikes that are at the money. The trade-off is your upside's capped. The max you can get, if you pay $39 for the spread, the max gain you can get is 61. But we just did the math. It's still going to yield a triple-digit return, which I think would be a fantastic hedge trade. Most of my hedges, I definitely want to make sure I'm getting a triple-digit return. Because if we need to use, if the hedge comes into play, I want to make sure the risk reward is really, really good on that. And also because the spread is so cheap, if it goes to zero and I end up not needing the hedge, it's just a drop in the bucket. And so that's kind of how I look at it is, if I'm long, if I have 4 open positions and I'm long on all of them, and I'm expected to make like $1,000 on them in profit, I don't mind spending a few $100s to buy some insurance. Okay, I'll sacrifice some of my potential profit to go ahead and put a hedge in place. That way, when SPY does pull back, we're not just sitting on the sidelines crying the blues. We're actually making money now. So that's kind of the purpose of a hedge for me is, hey, I'm expected to make X amount on my longs. I don't mind taking a percentage of that potential profit to go ahead and buy insurance. And, if I end up needing to cash in that insurance, then I'll be nice and profitable, and that'll help counteract any drawdown I might be seeing on my long positions. Like I say, instead of sitting on the sidelines and just doing nothing, because I see it every day when SPY pulls back or the indexes pull back. Of course, SPY is the ETF that follows the S&P index. But I see it all the time where people are loving life, their long positions are doing great, but they're not really protecting themselves. And then when the market does correct, they're kind of down and out because they weren't prepared for it. Me, the way I trade, I like to buy insurance for the just in case scenario. And if that insurance goes to zero, it's not going to affect my overall, profit and loss or my overall profit by much, because I'm just using it. Like I say, if I'm projected to make $1,000, hey, on my current long positions, I'll sacrifice $200 of that potential profit to go ahead and buy insurance. Because look at it this way, if you don't need the insurance, then the market's probably going in your favor with your longs, and you'll be able to get the profit there. And then the amount of money that the debit you spent on that insurance, it shouldn't affect you much. But if you do need to use the insurance, because the market does correct a little bit, hey, now instead of sitting on the sidelines doing nothing, now we're actually making some profit on the downside, which will then help to offset any drawdown that you might be seeing on your longer positions. So that's kind of how I explain how I specifically do hedge trades. And again, not financial advice. This is all for education and entertainment purposes. This is just kind of my opinion on what I would do, But I do appreciate everyone coming out to these streams. We're up to almost 2,000 people tuning in again. My real name is Benjamin. Most people call me Ben. And on the Discord, I go by the Swinging Bull. So again, if you're looking for a new trading community, we're very supportive. We have tons of education. We do live trading every day. We put out alerts with entries and price targets and stop loss recommendations, and we got it all. And we started doing coaching, and actually we've been doing the coaching thing for all this. We rolled that out like earlier this year. I think we've been doing it for a while now, but I got like 80 people in my coaching group. It's only like 30 or 40 bucks a month, I think, for my coaching group. But what I do is I mainly write contracts. Okay, so all my trades are sell to open. Obviously, when I trade spreads, one of the legs might be a buy to open, but overall, I'm collecting credit usually, unless I do a debit spread, like I was just showing you the example on for the SPY put debit spread. This would be a solid downside hedge if you wanted to participate in any potential future downside, where you could make some money if that happens. And this pays over 150% return on risk on this one. So, I do debit spreads, but the majority of my trades are sell to open. I basically have been writing contracts for many, many years now. And that's what I do in the Discord. I teach people how to write contracts. I show people how to trade using multi-leg options. And there's so many creative things we can do when you start adding additional legs to your option trades. And that's basically what I do in the Discord. I show everyone how to do that. And like I say, we get real creative. And sometimes we can turn trades into a risk-free trade after it's already been opened. We can open up some other legs. We could use existing legs as collateral to sell credit against them, and end up with free option trades after so much credit is brought in. But yeah, if you've ever been curious about writing contracts and it's something you've been wanting to get involved in, definitely come check us out. There's a link in the description for my coaching. Also, if you go to my X account, I've been trying to grow my X presence because I think more people need to know about these different ways of trading. It's not so cut and dry all the time. There's so many different ways we can trade. It's not just as simple as, okay, buy a call, I want the underlying to go up. Oh, buy a put, I want the underlying to go down. Okay, well, that's a start, but there's so many more creative ways to trade outside of that. All right, and that's my job, is to show everyone what those ways to trade are and those different strategies are. I run a ton of the wheel strategy. I write a lot of cash secured puts. I sell a lot of covered calls. I do a lot of credit spreads. I do a lot of debit spreads. We trade condors. I've been showing the Discord. We've been recently trading diagonal calendar spreads, where we're basically going 3-4 months out and we're buying an option, and then we're using that option as collateral to sell weekly contracts and generate weekly income. And it's a sure way to be able to reduce your buying power needed for a cash secured put by like sometimes 90%. We can reduce the cost of that capital you would need on a weekly basis just by owning this longer dated option that's 3-4 months out. You would need a margin account to do this, but as long as you have the settled cash to cover the width of the spread, you're technically not using any margin. So, people get confused. They think, oh, well, I don't want to trade spreads because you need a margin account, and I don't want to pay any interest by using margin. And but they don't understand the metrics behind a spread trade and behind a margin account. If you have settled cash on the side to cover the width of that spread, you are absolutely not using any margin. Okay, so people need to be told what the real deal is on a lot of this stuff, because there's a lot of misinformation going around, and I like to be the one to clarify that for everyone, because we got to have our facts straight, especially if we're trading multi-leg options. You can't just be firing off at the hip. You got to know the metrics behind the trades and how they work, and then as soon as you got that down pat, everything kind of falls into place. But anyways, I kind of been blabbing my mouth here for a little bit. Sometimes once I get going, I can't stop. But, I just love talking about this stuff. I've been writing contracts for several years now. It's my bread and butter type of trading. It by far has been the most consistent and profitable over the years. And that's just the way I prefer to trade. It's less emotion, less stress, compared to trying to day trade every day. And that's just what I prefer. And I usually manage my trades once a week. I'm not really glued to the screen, but that's just what the deal is. Dallas on X, is Len not moving till the call? Yeah, well, Lennar's data actually isn't even out yet. Let me go back intraday on this 5-minute chart. Yeah, it's still kind of just chilling there. But yeah, it's just for everyone, just so everyone knows, Lennar's earnings data has not been released yet. So that's why it's kind of just sitting idle right now. And according to my information, they are supposed to report at 5:45 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so we got about 45 more minutes for that. Yeah, Dallas on X, 5:45 p.m. Eastern. Their actual earnings call isn't until tomorrow at 11 a.m. And Jed T on X was nice enough to get that info for us. So I appreciate you. Okay, Yahoo Finance says it's 5 p.m. I'll probably go ahead and go with that time then, because sometimes there are typos on earnings whispers with the time. If Yahoo Finance says it's 5, that's probably when it is. I appreciate that info as well. Mohampreet on YouTube, shout out to you. Let me give you a shout out there. There you go. Love you, brother. Thanks for giving me that info. Dallas on X, do you think the big move will happen during the earnings call or just when it comes out? I think there's going to be a move when the data comes out, for sure. Now, another thing to keep in mind, there could be a secondary move when they do their web call tomorrow morning. And for some reason, they spaced it out that way. Their earnings web call with the upper management and the CEO and CFO and all that, It's not till tomorrow at 11 a.m. But yes, I would expect an initial reaction when the data first gets released, because then we'll know the EPS, the revenue, any guidance, things of that nature. Year over year numbers, quarter over quarter numbers, always important to signify any growth or no growth. So yes, when the data comes out, there'll be an initial reaction for sure. And just keep in mind tomorrow, before lunchtime at 11 a.m. Eastern, when they do the earnings web call, there could be a secondary move if they start talking about guidance and stuff like that. For Lennar, I'd have to. It's kind of making a guess for earnings reaction. It really could be a coin toss, and the only reason being is because we don't know what they're going to guide. And they could beat EPS, they could beat revenue, their year over year and quarter over quarter numbers could be good. But if for some reason they guide lower, for example, for the rest of the fiscal year, like 2025, or even the 2026 guidance, if they guide lower because of quote unquote tariff uncertainty, sometimes they blame it on that, macroeconomic type stuff, that it's just going to totally kill any possible positive move that they could have. So that's why it's a coin toss. We could dig deep in their financials and fundamentals and try and figure out, probably would lean bullish or probably would lean bearish. But the fact of the matter is, and we've seen it time and time again in the past, it's all about the guide. And yes, Mohanpreet, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, by the way. You just made a really good point with the rate cut. Okay, the Feds cut the rates by 25 basis points yesterday, and they signaled for 2 more additional cuts for this year. That should help the housing market. Okay, you might see a little uptick in buying demand, if you will, and especially over here in Florida, these builders are running like great specials right now. All right, they're paying all your closing costs. They're doing rate buy downs. They're giving you an upgraded appliance package or upgraded flooring, and they're just like throwing it in there as a concession to help create demand. So couple the builder incentives and the rate cut. Maybe they end up guiding, raising the guidance. And if that's the case, this is going to get a positive reaction. And we were looking at the bigger time frames. I'll be looking for resistance around 144 to 145, probably 144. I'll just call it 144. There might be some sellers up there waiting, but nonetheless, that would still be a solid move to the upside, a little over a $10 move, which would be real nice for the bulls. Negative reaction, S1 130, and then I just do $5 levels, so 125 and then 120. But yeah, I mean, I would like to tell you what my bias would be, but unfortunately, because we don't know what the guide is going to be, it truly is a 50-50 shot. Now, one thing you could do if you are a Lennar investor, okay, and you already have an open position, and it's maybe you've held it for longer than a year and you don't want to sell it because you don't want to pay long-term, or you don't want to pay capital gain tax. If you've owned it over a year, you're going to get, even if you do get cashed out, you do get the long-term capital gain tax rate, which is a lot better than the short-term. But let's just say you have a position and you got a really nice average on Lennar, maybe in the low $100 range, and you have profit on the table. Assuming you have at least 100 shares and you wanted to protect the profit, all you have to do is throw a collar on this. Everyone's heard of the famous quarterly JP Morgan collar trade. Well, I'll show you how to do a collar trade right now. So if you have 100 shares, what you could do, and they report earnings tonight, so you could even, you don't have to put a lot of time on this because you could just roll the collar out. But how you would do that is you would, let's say, just make sure what you're going to do is sell a covered call and use that premium to buy a naked put as your downside protection. So what you could do, you could sell this 133 covered call. Looks like the last sale was $500. And out of that $500 credit that you receive, you then could pay for a 132 put option. That would cap your downside risk at 132 just through the strike price, through intrinsic value. And then you could make a decision at expiration date whether you want to roll the caller out or take profit on the long put. And of course, your covered call at that point would probably be at max gain. And then you could decide to close that out and liquidate your shares and just be out of the position with all the profit that you had before the earnings. But this is just a simple way to protect yourself, especially this is more for conservative traders, especially if you want to protect a position that already has profit on the table. Slap a collar on it and your downside will be hedged. No problem. For a collar trade, the max gain would be the strike on your covered call side. So basically, let's just say, for instance, you had an average, like this was an existing position you had been building up over time. Let's say your average was at like $110 a share. Lennar's trading at just above 130, and you want to protect your gains going into the earnings announcement. You sell the 133 covered call, use that credit to purchase your downside protection. You'd probably be, it probably won't even cost you anything to put that protection in place because you're using the credit from the covered call. Your max gain would be your cost basis to the 133 strike. So the 133 covered call strike, let's say your cost basis was at 110, then you basically, you'd be locking in $23 in profit per share. Okay. And that's also the case if Lennar has a positive reaction, your upside will be capped at 133. So yes, it does cap your upside, but the purpose of the trade is to protect your downside. Okay, that's what the collar trade is for. Okay. But yeah, it's been about an hour. It is 5 p.m. Still no reaction from Lennar. Maybe Yahoo Finance's time was wrong. So we're just getting mixed signals on when exactly the earnings web call, the earnings data release is. Earnings Whisper says 5:45. Yahoo Finance says 5. It's now 5:02, and it's still a nothing burger. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Okay, got another question on YouTube. Got the 132 calls for $4. Okay, so you bought a naked option. The trade I was talking about, the collar trade, that's actually selling a covered call. So that wouldn't be buying it, but that's just a way to put a free hedge in place, basically. But if you bought a naked option, because you think it's going to be bullish, I do like Mohammed. I do like the strike price you chose because that strike's in the money. And anytime your strike is in the money, you're gonna get better delta. Look at the delta on that thing's 57, and also the theta is not going to hurt you as bad. Okay, the more in the money you are, the less the theta is going to be, and the more the delta is. So I always tell people, I don't trade naked options too often. Sometimes I'll do a lotto ticket for earnings, kind of like Mohammed Pete did. But it's just a lotto ticket. It's kind of hero or zero on those. I prefer to do spread trades and stuff like that for earnings because I can reduce the buying power needed and still get a decent return. But I do like the strike you picked. That's similar to probably what I would do. And it just depends on your portfolio size. Some people don't have enough capital to buy these options that are at the money or in the money because they get a little pricey. But if you got the funds and you can afford it, try and get as close to the money you can. Even better yet, in the money, and those options are going to pay extremely fantastic. But yeah, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, you want to learn multi-leg strategy? That's my bread and butter. That's really all I trade is multi-leg options. I guess the way to summarize it is what I do is write contracts. I'm a contract writer. I provide liquidity to the option chain. I write contracts and sell it to speculators. Okay. So I sell speculation. That's what I do, and it's just It's just the best way to trade for me personally. Everyone's different, and it depends on your personality. But for me and my personality and the time that I have to be able to dedicate to the screen, I prefer writing contracts because I really only manage them like once a week. It's not like I'm glued to the screen all the time. I can kind of just check in from a bird's eye view and see how my spreads are doing, see how the contracts I wrote are doing. And it's definitely reduces screen time by a lot compared to being, trying to day trade every day. And sometimes you're stuck in a day trade for hours on end and you can't even leave to go make a sandwich, right? I don't like that. I don't like trading like that. But yeah, if you're interested in learning about the multi-leg options and how to be a contract writer, I mean, in essence, it's like we're little mini market makers because we're creating the liquidity for the option chain. That's kind of how I look at myself. It's true. But if you have ever been interested in that, join the Discord and just tag me after you join, tag me in the chat. I'll come by and say hello. We can talk for a little bit. Maybe there's something I can help you out with right away. Who knows? Or maybe there's something I can tell you to confirm something you were already thinking, But yeah, that's what I do. So if you're interested, there's links in the description. Check it out. Also, I wanted to show everyone my X account. If y'all like the content, give me a follow on X. This is my handle right here. So it's @swingingbull_1. There should be a link in the description of this stream, a hyperlink that'll take you right to it. I also started a $2,500 account challenge. I started it 5 weeks ago, and it's specifically using the wheel strategy. This is selling cash secured puts to get into stock, collecting income while we're doing it. And then once assigned, we sell covered calls to get out of stock for profit. And it's like a full rotation of the wheel. This account is already up 9.5% in only 5 weeks. So I've just about hit the average S&P annual return in only 5 weeks. And I made up this little graphic. I know anyone can make a graphic up, but if you scroll down on my X account, you'll see I actually do post the actual trades in the contracts. Okay, so everyone knows what strike prices I'm doing and the expiration dates and all that. So I do post the progress of the account challenge on my X account. So if you want to follow along, this was from yesterday when the Feds cut the rate. If you do want to follow along, just give me a follow on X and you'll see. I just want to prove to everyone you don't need a ton of capital to write contracts. A lot of people think you need all this capital to be a contract writer. It's just simply not true. And I'm proving it. If you got a few $1,000 laying around and you're sick of the day trading rat race and the emotional roller coaster of day trading, and you're looking for something that's a lot more consistent and a lot less emotional and stressful, come see me. You only need a few $1,000. I'll get you going. And like I say, I post all the trades on my X. But if you want to know exactly when I'm entering the trades and when I'm exiting or when I'm managing them or taking early profit or any of that stuff, you will have to join the Discord to get that info. But if you're just curious about, the progress on how this $2,500 account challenge is going, just follow me on X and you'll get all the updates. And the goal of the account challenge is to beat the S&P annual average return by 3x or more. Well, returning a 9.5% return on the portfolio in 5 weeks, I'd say I'm well off to the races on hitting my goal on this. So, but anyways, it's been a little bit over an hour. I'll just take one little peek at Lennar one last time, and yeah, still nothing. So maybe Earnings Whispers is right. Maybe it's at 5:45. But either way, they're not doing their earnings web call until tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens to Lennar. I am curious on what their reaction is going to be. I've actually been in real estate for the past 17 years over here in Florida. So I'm very interested in seeing their reaction and kind of their data to give us a little more insight on the housing market. So, but yeah, other than that, my name's the Swinging Bull. I'm with PB Alerts, Discord. Links in the description. If you're looking for a new home, check us out. But other than that, I hope y'all are enjoying the streams. I do these streams every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So today is the last one of the week, but I'll pick it back up next Tuesday, and we should have a lot of fun on the subsequent streams. But other than that, I hope everyone enjoyed. I hope everyone has a fantastic night. It was good seeing a lot of familiar faces in here. And until next time, I'll see everyone in the very next stream. Cheers.